Hello, welcome. My name's Tim, and today I'm going to be talking to you about all of the numbers and stats on what I read in 2023. So, first of all, Happy New Year. Welcome to 2024. When I was looking through the numbers of books that I've read, the average ratings, number of pages, most read orders, things like authors, things like that, I realised how difficult it can be to track these things. Mainly because I just uploaded all of my stuff onto Storygraph and got a load of information there, which is interesting. And then I don't know if it's a coincidence or if just the big evil Amazon got jealous, but then suddenly my Goodreads wasn't working properly. So I've been trying to add everything up, and I've also got a spreadsheet which I use. It's all very manual and inelegant, but I've certainly got pretty close. So this is just a quick rundown of my reading year, which is the best reading year I have ever had, I think. Certainly as an adult. I may have read more as a child, but certainly as an adult, I've never read so many books. So, first of all, the total number of books that I have read, that I finished in 2023, was 85 books, which is crazy high. Crazy high. And the total number of pages came to 19,581. So that's a lot of pages. In average, that averaged out to 228 pages per book. And this is low, like 230 pages is a small book. But one thing I did this year, last year now, was I included books I was reading to the kids. So I wasn't including the books that we would read and you could finish in 5 minutes, picture books, things like that. But I did include the books that we read together over 2, 3, 4 longer nights. So that really brings the averages down. I also read quite a few comics and graphic novels. They bring the average down quite a bit. So that's why. And also, I just generally read a lot of shorter books. I read a lot of short books at the beginning of the year to just kind of get into it, and then I read some chonkers as well. In terms of the longest book I read, that was certainly Les Mis, which my edition came to 1,264 pages. I didn't read all of that this year. I think I read the first 2 volumes in previous years. But then this year, 2023, I was like, this is my target, is to finish Les Mis, and I managed it. I will film a review for that, because it's a very big, very complex book that brings lots of complex feelings out of me. The shortest book I read was The Giraffe, the Pelly and Me by Roald Dahl, and that's 32 pages, the edition that we had. So that kind of shows the difference in scale. But overall, it's I would say it's a strong reading year for me. In terms of rating, my average rating is 3.7 out of 5, which I think is good. And the breakdown is, I had 22 stars that were 22 books that were 5 stars, 32 books that were 4 stars, 22 books that were 3 stars, and then 4 books were 2 stars, and 5 books were 1 star. So I think that's a really strong year. The majority coming in 4 stars I think is fair, because I like most books, or most books that I read I like. But there's, I have put quite a few to 5 stars as well, which I think is great. In terms of most read authors, 2 come out on top by a long way. I read 7 books from each of them. They are C.S. Lewis, who I listened to all of the Chronicles of Narnia in 2023. And all the Narnia books, and Roald Dahl. I read 7 Roald Dahl books. Not all of them to the children. Quite a few I read just to myself. And then the next place is Susan Cooper, who I read 4 of her books, because I finished off the Dark is Rising sequence. That was something else I wanted to do as a goal. I finished that. And then in 3rd place was Jin Yong, who I finished 2 books, and I'm in the middle of the 3rd book this year, which is the Legend of the Condor Heroes series, which is a book series I wanted to finish by the end of 2023 and didn't quite get to. I will film a wrap-up of what I read in December, and what I didn't read in December, because it was definitely a slower month, and now I know, don't book as much time to read don't plan to read as much in December, because just Christmas and life and being knackered impacts the amount that I can read. Looking at the breakdown of the method that I read, so this is where I've been looking through my Goodreads and trying to break down stuff. So now if you look at the numbers, they will not add up to 85, and that's very annoying, but it's just the case. But it gives you an indication. That's what I'm going for. So in terms of physical books, I read 54 physical books. I listened to 8 audiobooks, 12 books online on the Open Archive or on the Comics app, things like that, and then 5 books on my Kindle. The oldest book I read was the Fairy Tales from the Brothers Grimm, which I think is in 1812, and the newest book was In the Shadow of the Wolf Queen by Kieran Millward Hargrave, which is probably my book of the year, and that came out August 31st this year, well, 2023, almost this year. In terms of the breakdown, 15 books I read were in the 2020s, 11 books were in the 2010s, 4 were in the 2000s, 6 were from the 90s, 8 were from the 80s, 4 were from the 70s, 3 were from the 60s, and 7 were from the 50s. And then 1 book was the older, the Brothers Grimm. So if I now go to Storygraph, you can have they've got a breakdown of the moods of the book. So Storygraph only 81 books came across at 20,000 pages. So I just don't understand. I think it's because there's so many different editions, and whether it's an audiobook or whatever. So in terms of moods, the highest was adventurous, and they're with 53, then light-hearted with 28, and then mysterious with 15. They were the top 3. In terms of pace, it was mainly medium pace. 51% were medium pace, 33% fast pace, and 15% was slow pace. In terms of page number, the vast majority says 70% of my books were under 300 pages, which I think is right, which is why my average page count per book is low. 23% 300 to 499, and then 8% over 500. It says here 13% was non-fiction, and 88% was fiction. My top 3 were genres were fantasy, then children's fiction, and then they also have middle grade fiction. I don't really know what the difference is between the two. But then classics was next. So, and then most things I read were in English. And yeah, so those are the stats from my year in reading, my record year in reading 85 books, almost 20,000 words. Super chuffed with it. I read loads of really good books. I finished some series that I really wanted to finish, and I'm enjoying reading slightly more grown-up books with the kids as they grow up. Yeah, so that was my 2023. Comment below what your numbers were, or if you like this kind of thing. I enjoy these kind of breakdown of numbers, and it quite frustrated me when things didn't quite add up. But hey, that's life. So anyway, please give this video a like. Please comment below if you like my videos of me talking about the books that I read and the books I want to read. Please subscribe. And anyway, I'll see you soon. Get out my house!